Dreading your workday is an all too common feeling amongst the workforce, so much so that people have completely resorted to living on the streets to reclaim any false sense of freedom. In this video, if you can personally relate to anything discussed in today's video, or simply has been enjoying my daily doomer commentaries over here on the page, then don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, opinions down below, and subscribe to see my daily videos right here on the channel. And a huge shout out to the handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. Now, let's begin this shit show.
Look, right, if you think about it, we're really working for free. The average person works 8, 10, or 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. We get paid, but all that money that we making, it's going right back to the motherfuckers that we getting it from. I say if you work at a grocery store, like part-time or full-time, whatever, and the day comes you gotta buy groceries. And guess where your paycheck is going? Towards them groceries. The same store that you working at, you getting that money right back to them because you need food in the house. It's like being an electrician at Pepco or something, and then you gotta pay your motherfucking electric bill. Fucking your money going right back to the motherfuckers that you working for.
Now, how many times have you been at your workplace, you just clocked in, or you're about to go back to your work break after your, lunch break, and you're thinking to yourself, why the fuck am I even here? The pay is not really paying for anything in your life. It's not really covering the bare minimum necessities, and it's damn near not covering the bills. There's like $37 left after, and that's to last till next payday, which is always way too damn far away. And then the people at your work, the management, never really does respect you. You finally do get a good manager. They're only there for, less than a year, so you have to keep switching management, and you never really feel like you're getting really respected. So whenever you finally do get a good, resemblance between who you are with who you're working with, the whole entire management team switches, and now you got to deal with a whole new manager, and you got to reinstate who you are, and that you're a good worker, and that you're not like this new person that has been here for 3 years like you have. And then it really all feels like, what are you working for? You're working for nothing. Not to mention that the inflation is never really keeping up with the cost interest, the pay raise is never keeping up with the inflation, cost interest, or the cost of living, all this other stuff. Sorry, I'm tired, but trying to make sure I can get these videos out consistently. But it's just a crazy thing to think how money controls our life so much. How do you get money? Through working. And how do most people have to work? Doing shit they don't want to do. They'd rather not do at all. And if they could choose to do it, they would rather pay to not do it if they could, but they can't do that because there's no money. There's no money. They don't have shit. So what do you feel like? Let me know your thoughts, opinions down below in the comments.
Just get a degree, bro. Just get $200,000 in debt, bro. I know people that are getting offered jobs for $10 an hour with a bachelor's in fields that they were told when we were little would make them lots of money right out of college. And of course they just say, go get a master's. Now you're 350 grand in debt. That's a fucking mortgage for the vague promise of getting a better job. And of course it's not guaranteed by any means. You need a master's to get a government job, and now we're just firing you because we need to do government efficiency and send all your money to the Israeli military so that they can attack other people, because it's cool. Government efficiency. I don't have a vested interest in making sure you have less money so I can have more. No. It's because of the woke agenda, bro. But Americans are so fucking gullible, I swear. People just...
Now, I personally worked at a lot of these fast food places, a lot of these retail stores, a lot of these what you would consider these high school jobs, and places that maybe like when you're retired you work part-time to get an extra buck or to cover the extra expenses that the Social Security check's not really covering, because it seems to never do if you really ask a lot of these older folks, especially the ones at the cashier or behind the counter at some of these places. But with all that being said, if you ask a lot of these people, like the people I've worked with, they have degrees. They were sold a lie. And or they try to work up the corporate ladder just to realize that they're just as replaceable as when they first started as the new hiree. And at the end of the day, is retirement even promised? They don't even really believe it either, because they don't see many of the people even double their age even being able to get it, because they're constantly having to turn down people who are trying to apply double their age because of multiple different reasons. But do you feel like millennials got completely screwed over? Do you feel like Gen Z is now starting to realize, like, damn, is this what we've been working into? Like, what the fuck's going on here? I love to know your guys' thoughts, opinions, and especially which generation you're from. If you have kids that are in these ages that you feel for, or you're like, have any different thoughts, opinions. So feel free to
Gen Z will say, our childhood has been ruined by social media and smartphones. Millennials will say, we can't buy a house. Baby boomers will say, our retirement is very uncertain. Really, the true losers in the generational war are Generation X.
Tell me what it is that makes us Generation X really so unusual.
There's this theory called the U-bend of life theory, which actually has quite a lot of academic support. You're pretty happy when you're young, and you're pretty happy when you're old, but you're pretty miserable when you're in middle age. So there was a recent poll by Ipsos which found that roughly a third of Gen Xers are either not very happy or not happy at all. Some chronic health issues begin to emerge in middle age. people kind of come to realize that they're not going to achieve all they want to achieve in their career. And also they're at this tricky stage where often they have to look after both children and parents.
But haven't Generation X done pretty well in terms of wealth accumulation and tending to own their own homes?
If you look at when people's earnings start to really take off, it's in their kind of 30s and early 40s. Now, for Generation X, this coincided with the aftermath of the financial crisis of 2008, where wage growth across the world was very, very weak. So they were hit at just the moment when they were really going to see a takeoff in their earnings. If you look at the older millennials, they're actually more likely to own a home than Generation X were of the same age. And again, the long shadow of the financial crisis is to blame here, because what you had in 2008 to 2011 was a large number of foreclosures and so on, particularly in the US. And the people who got hit hardest by that were Generation X. So as a result, they've not been able to get on the housing ladder to anywhere near the same degree as the baby boomers.
How many times have you been on the internet and you see people talk about not having jobs? Let's just post a bunch of different things right here. So it's really hard to really, get into like this, really hard to compartmentalize what's going on, but becoming a middle-aged loser is becoming more and more common. Living in your parents' basement, crashing out, and just restarting over and over and over again is becoming more and more common. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm personally find myself as a 25-year-old loser, if you want to use the definition of the words, but at the end of the day, it's all about how you look at your mindset. And honestly, 25, 35, hell, 45, we're all young at the end of the day. We're all just living, and the older you get, the more you realize you never really grow up, you just kind of keep on aging. So quite an interesting philosophy when you really break it down, but some people do mature a lot sooner and quicker than others, and some people never seem to get there. So what do you personally feel like? Do you feel like you were sold a lie, just like I touched on and mentioned earlier in this video, or do you feel like just everybody is just so doom and gloom and the internet's ruined the society and we shouldn't know what's going on across the world, because we shouldn't even know what's going on a city over, we should just only know what's going on in the newspaper? Anyway, I love to know your thoughts and opinions, so feel free to let me know down below in the comments. Well, guys, that's gonna wrap up another video discussing our shitty society, how everybody's struggling, and how despite what generation you're from, you're probably just as fucked as anybody else. Either way, if you guys have any personal thoughts, opinions, or you can relate to anything discussed in this video, I'd love to hear those, read through those, sort through those, and respond to the ones I see fit down below in the comments, so feel free to leave those there. And a huge shout out to the handful of you guys continuing to support my videos daily, coming through and hanging out with me on my late night live streams. That always goes such a long way, and I definitely appreciate the handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are genuinely some of the best ways to support me, keep me fed, keep me off the streets, and keep me consistent. So I definitely appreciate you guys. God bless. Hope you guys have been enjoying my videos. I plan to remain consistent throughout the month of October and throughout the rest of the year. So hope you've been enjoying. Hope to see you next time. That's it for me today. So bye.